videos corporativos que se están rodando.
CCA 348 Maniyuti es una alternativa
Gracias, Rosángela,
para
bien.
pequeños productores. En este caso no viene a ser una alternativa por el hecho de que lo pueden manejar a nivel familiar y es un material que rinde mucho, es un material convencional. Gracias. Se comporta también muy bien para los tres grupos de productores.
Ustedes
pequeños,
también pueden ver esos videos que se
productores.
están rodando en una de las
nos orgullece tal vez una semilla que sea acá en la zona,
en
¿no?
la vista en
Y
galería.
poder
Bueno, ahora lo tienen en
sacarla
grande.
hacia afuera. Como ustedes decían, las semillas han sido extraídas de otro lado por esta variedad de semillas. A nosotros nos va a fortalecer simplemente para que nuestros pequeños productores tal vez tengan
la transmisión en vivo ya
una
está
fuente de
al
ingresos
aire.
más, digamos.
Parece
Ana,
que estamos entrando
haremos
a
la cuenta regresiva de siempre.
un nuevo horizonte en base a la planta del algodón. Pero hoy
sí,
tiene
ustedes
un
todos los
propósito.
panelistas se mantengan
Ese
acá,
nuevo
cámaras
propósito es
encendidas, su
vender la
micrófono
fibra y
cerrado.
vender
Señora
la
Tania,
semilla,
le
¿no?
ruego por favor
Hoy en
solo
día
abrirlo cuando
tenemos
sea su turno de
estudiantes
participación.
tecnológicos superiores de Pailo en convenio
Gracias.
con el municipio y con la cooperación sur-sur, acá el municipio tal vez haciendo la investigación
Pablo,
del algodón.
todo bien
¿no?
con
Vine
la
acá y
asignación
los
de
del
las intérpretes,
Vallecito,
¿verdad?
me brindaron este trabajo para que yo lo pueda realizar y yo me incorporé aquí y empecé con lo que es
ahora que
el
preguntó la
trabajo
señora,
de investigación
y
del algodón,
definitivamente
producción de
a
semillas.
ustedes en las
Fue
redes sociales
una gran
nada,
oportunidad
no
para
abran
mí
redes
trabajar en
sociales,
esto porque,
no, porque
fui
pueden provocar
conociendo más
un
lo que es el
feedback.
cultivo.
Sí.
Ustedes solamente
Y
acá en el
es de
Zoom.
mucha importancia porque es un cultivo muy
Exactamente.
amplio y muy interesante.
El evento,
Nosotros,
si bien va a ser transmitido en las
vemos
redes
de que,
sociales, por favor ustedes no
esto
tengan en
vendría a
su
ser, digamos,
aparato,
como un
device,
aporte a
computador
los
que estén
pequeños
usando.
productores,
Por favor no
y que
abran
si
ninguna
le
red
hacen
social de
un
FAO, ninguna otra
excelente, un
transmisión,
buen manejo,
tampoco activen
va a ser muy
programas
productivo
que
para
puedan
los
tener
pequeños
notificaciones en
productores.
vivo con sonidos como WhatsApp o algo así, porque si no todos esos sonidos van a salir en su participación. Y tiene disponible en la barra de abajo para seleccionar el idioma de su preferencia. Fernando, if you want to follow this participation in English, you can select the language in the low bar. Bueno, muchísimas gracias a todos por su paciencia y participación en esta etapa de las pruebas técnicas. Les deseamos un gran evento y nos vemos pronto.
Gracias, Rafa.
A ti.
La Universidad Nacional Agraria UNA y el Instituto Nicaragüense de Tecnología Agropecuaria INTA, con el acompañamiento de FAO a través del programa Mesoamérica sin Hambre, realizaron el Diplomado Internacional en Bancos Comunitarios de Semilla y Fitomejoramiento Participativo, con el objetivo de fortalecer las capacidades de servidores públicos y productores, innovadores e investigadores del INTA. A través del mecanismo de cooperación sur-sur, el desarrollo del diplomado ha contado con experiencia internacional de expertos tanto de la Universidad Autónoma de Chapingo y el Instituto Nacional de Investigaciones Forestales, Agrícolas y Pecuarias, INIFAP de México.
Esta iniciativa nace dentro del marco del proyecto de Semillas Criollas, que es financiado por el FAO Amexit. Es un proyecto cuyo objetivo es el fortalecimiento de los pequeños productores a través del desarrollo de bancos comunitarios, quienes impulsan el trabajo de producción de semillas y mejoramiento genético de sus cultivos a través del fitomejoramiento participativo.
El módulo 3 comprende la aplicación de la metodología para realizar fitomejoramiento participativo, para lo cual, además de la parte teórica, se realizó prácticas de campo en bancos comunitarios de semilla, ubicados en el municipio del Sauce, León.
Lo que hicimos fue reafirmar lo que vimos en aula, en estas parcelas donde ya tienen un proceso de fitomejoramiento. Pudimos ver toda la variación que existe en estos materiales nativos de maíz en este caso, pero también fuimos implementando algunas técnicas de mejora que se puede hacer a través de la polinización artificial y además algunas técnicas que podemos implementar con la manipulación de plantas de maíz a través del desespigue y del desmezcle de machos y la selección en estos surcos desespigados de hembras, ¿no?
La alianza entre el sector público, privado y la academia juega un papel muy importante en este tipo de cooperación para llevar a cabo los objetivos del diplomado y así mejorar las técnicas en la producción.
Es muy interesante la cooperación que se está dando entre México y Nicaragua en el aspecto de conservación de recursos genéticos mediante la estrategia de bancos comunitarios de semillas y la estrategia de mejoramiento participativo para tener mejores cosechas en los cultivos básicos del país. Se logran mejores resultados cuando hay una coordinación interinstitucional y colaboraciones internacionales para acelerar los procesos. Este tipo de cooperación entre países y entre instituciones dentro del mismo país va a permitir detonar más rápido el desarrollo de Nicaragua.
En este programa educativo se abordaron 4 módulos teóricos prácticos relacionados con conceptualización y organización de bancos comunitarios de semillas, uso y aplicación de bioinsumos para producción de semilla y generación de variedades, desarrollo del proceso de fitomejoramiento participativo, métodos y herramientas para la multiplicación de semilla y pureza genética.
Estos procesos que está impulsando el gobierno son buenos. ¿Qué nos pasaba más antes a nosotros? Sembrábamos por las sequías que habían, perdíamos la semilla y salíamos al pueblo a agarrar de los sacos que estaban.
Hemos puesto un momento, en la transmisión todo está correcto, pero es para comentarles algo a las organizadoras del evento. Entendemos que falta la señora Maya Takashi, ¿correcto?, para participar. Y para ver si pueden, por favor, pedirle que se conecte.
Rafael, acabo de hablar con Gabriela, que trabaja con ella, y me dice que acaba de salir una reunión y que ya está entrando a esta.
Perfecto. ¿Tenemos algún otro panelista que no se ha conectado?
Tenemos a Felipe Chamizo, que es de la organización, que dijo que estaba en lista de espera, Rafa.
Sí, lo dejo entrar, pero pertenece a la organización. Pero falta Blanca, ¿no? De panelistas, entiendo. La señora Blanca Landero, ¿puede ser?
Sí, falta. Sí.
Ok, les rogaría por favor verificar, si no alcanza a entrar en esta parte previa, porque ya nos quedan 6 minutitos, avisarle que entre con su micrófono cerrado y la cámara encendida. Gracias, amigas.
Ok.
Todos los años tienes que dejar un poquito.
Y las plantas que son medicina uno le pide que tiene que darle la sanidad, que tiene que darle la energía.
Hacer trauquito a las personas que no tienen, para que se armen de semilla igual. Pues yo también, todo lo que siembro yo lo reparto, no es para mí nomás.
El tiempo en agosto, septiembre es crudo, por eso siempre la huerta se hace en noviembre. Antes no se puede porque el hielo está bajo hielo.
La red CIPAN, Sistemas Importantes del Patrimonio Agrícola Nacional, es una iniciativa que es impulsada por el Ministerio de Agricultura. En particular trabajamos junto a INDAP y con el apoyo técnico de FAO, además del financiamiento del Fondo Mundial para el Medio Ambiente. Trabajamos en 12 comunas y en particular en el territorio Cordillera Pehuenche, en 4 comunas: Alto Biobío, en la región de Biobío, y en la región de la Araucanía, en Lonquimay, Melipeuco y Curarrehue. Estos sistemas importantes del patrimonio agrícola nacional y mundial son una respuesta, por ejemplo, al cambio climático, donde aquellas prácticas ancestrales están asociadas a la transición agroecológica y tanto agricultores como agricultoras lo han mantenido en el tiempo. Las semillas tradicionales no solo tienen historias y son culturas, patrimonio, sino que también nutricionalmente hablando, la biodiversidad nos aporta mucho a nuestro organismo.
La semilla antigua se ha ido perdiendo por el desarrollo de semillas que se han introducido semillas nuevas. Y claro, y ahí está la clave de mantener esa biodiversidad, de ir recuperando esa semilla para poder que se mantenga ese equilibrio y esa sustentabilidad.
Este es otro mundo que se está creando, pues entonces empezar a valorar a las mujeres o el trabajo que hacen en el tema de las huertas, y que nosotros no imponerle a ellos, sino que nosotros aprender de lo que hacen ellos. Para mí es que las mujeres, las ñañas, sean escuchadas y sean valoradas, pero que ellas sean las protagonistas de los programas.
Yo agradezco mucho este día porque realmente ahora se está dando un momento muy especial, porque aquí yo diría que está representada, yo diría casi la totalidad de las huerteras más importantes del país, sin decirlo arrogantemente. Aquí está realmente gente maravillosa, es un momento muy especial porque hay muchas mujeres que yo admiro mucho.
La huerta tradicional pehuenche, la huerta tradicional mapuche no es solamente un poroto, un zapallo, un maíz, es muchos porotos, muchos zapallos, muchos maíz, mucho la huerta, muchas flores. Ese es un kimón y una forma de vivir la vida de la huerta que es distinta.
Nosotros estamos trabajando con la Fundación Biodiversidad Alimentaria en un plan de manejo de huertas, justamente donde se han identificado 24 variedades tradicionales, variedades que estaban perdidas o estaban a punto de desaparecer. Entonces se dieron a conocer, se espera hacer un estudio nutricional de parte de ellas para que esta información sea pública y que justamente sea una de las maneras de poder resguardar estas semillas tradicionales. Entonces estos huertos semilleros es que se puedan replicar.
Pues lo más importante es que uno, teniendo una huerta, sabe lo que está comiendo. Entonces por eso tenemos que tener nuestra huerta para saber lo que comemos. Y hay que hacer huerta. Aunque sea en un espacio chico, hay que tener una pequeña huerta.
Está comenzando el último video, este dura 30 segundos solamente, o sea, perdón, 2 minutos 30.
Maya pregunta si puede probar su sonido, Pablo.
¿Quién? ¿La señora Maya? Sí, señora Maya.
Hola.
Hola, señora Maya. Sí, la escucho.
Muy
y si
bien,
puede,
muchas gracias.
Sí, y como si puede sacar el fondo virtual, súper. Coloca el blur solamente, sí.
Ok.
Y bajar un poquito la cámara. Exactamente, y bajar un poquito la cámara. Ajá, vamos con...
Marco del programa Mesoamérica sin hambre de Amexit FAO.
Gobierno, ¿verdad?, de reconciliación y unidad nacional, enmarcado en los sistemas productivos.
Señor William, ¿finalmente desde ese lugar va a hablar una sola persona o van a hablar dos?
Y en ese marco, en la línea de la cooperación.
Señor William.
Hablan dos, la señora Margaret y el señor William.
Conocido como Amexit,
Creo que está congelada esa imagen.
realizar diferentes acuerdos.
Sí. Ana, estamos a... bueno, falta un minuto todavía.
Perfecto, la señora Blanca Landero también ya está, así que cuando le toque abre el micrófono, por favor, señora Blanca. Gracias por estar.
Ahí volvió otra vez la imagen. Perfecto.
El programa Mesoamérica sin hambre para los productores nicaragüenses, ¿verdad?, principalmente en las zonas de Chinandega, Nueva Segovia, Matagalpa, Jinotega, Estelí, Masaya.
Sí, la señora Blanca, si puede encender su cámara. Ya estamos a pocos segundos de comenzar.
Los niveles de producción, ¿verdad? Si tomamos el crecimiento histórica
Ahí está el... Sí, vemos eso. Si puede bajar un poco la cámara.
Y comparamos los niveles de producción que tienen estos productores en sus diferentes parcelas o rubros, las diferencias son abismales. Pues eso significa que este programa ha tenido un impacto directo pues, en los bancos comunitarios de semillas, que es donde se ha venido
Vamos en
pues, la calidad de las semillas.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, adelante.
Good morning to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to welcome you to this seminar from the Regional Office for FAO in Latin America and the Caribbean. We propose to commemorate the management of seeds to be able to achieve a better production, a better nutrition, and in a better environment and a better livelihood. We are talking about areas linked to policies, legal frameworks, and new technologies that are available to improve access and the use of seeds and quality plantations. We will also see experiences from our producers and the lessons learned that they have achieved to share in that which relates to the protection of the seed to be able to conserve our cultural heritage, contributing to the manner in which we feed ourselves. My name is Ana Pozas. I am the Officer of Agriculture for FAO, and I will moderate this meeting today. I would like to especially greet our most important guest, Madame Maya Takai, who is the leader of the regional program for Latin America and the Caribbean, Mr. Wilson Hugo, who's the Officer for Agriculture for the Development of Seeds in FAO Rome, Madame Lee, who is the Executive Officer of the National Seeds for Costa Rica, Nonexi Garcia, who is the researcher for Foundation DANAC, Marcia Werner, who is the Director of Research and Technology, Mr. Henning, a researcher of Abrapa, Madame of the Vertex of Sovereign of the major Agro Venezuela group, Mr. Guzman, who's the farmer responsible in charge of the demonstrative parcels in Venezuela, Madame Blanca Landero, who's a producer at Chinandega and the commune of La Grecia in Nicaragua, Mr. Garcia, Director of Seeds for Nicaragua. Thank you all for being here today. We would like to remind you that we are transmitting this event via YouTube with simultaneous interpreting into English. You can access this website via www.fao.org/Americas and also through Twitter at FAO Americas. We would like to invite you to comment of this in the social networks with the World Seeds Day or Seeds Days or Sustainable Management. We would like to also invite all of you to set forth your questions in the network chat. We would be willing to respond to all these questions at the end of the work. I would like to define the dynamics behind this webinar. We will have the intervention of Madame Maya Takagi, leader of the regional program for FAO. We will then have different presentations, experiences, viewpoints of policies, legal framework, the work carried out by the government and the private sector, research and development in seeds, and some successful experiences in the region. Finally, we will hear the producers and farmers that will tell us a story about the safekeeping and propagation of their seeds at the local level. We will request that you have 10 minutes to participate. It's important to keep time so we can have a fluid interaction. I will let you know. I apologize that I will have to interrupt you if you go beyond the time assigned. Without further ado, Madame Maya Takagi, the leader of the regional program for FAO. Please, Maya, the floor is yours. Thank you very much, Ana. I hope you can all hear me. Good morning to all of you, all of those that are here. Good morning to our panelists. It is a pleasure to be with you today in this regional seminar. I would like to welcome the authorities that are here from the different governments, from the private industry, from the academic environment, from research, producers, farmers, and all those people that are following us in this dialogue. We will continue with the agenda. I would like to underline that the objective of this moment is to explore experiences and paths to understand sustainable process for the production of seeds. FAO recognizes that it is a central aspect in agricultural development. Therefore, the quality of seeds and the improvement of its access for farmers is a fundamental aspect to improve and achieve more efficiency for the production of their agricultural production. This will contribute to better nutrition, production, a better environment, and a better life, of course. We know that we have this major challenge to feed a world and by 2030, we have to increase by 60% the production at the world level. We know that plants reproduce more than 80% of human nutrition, and that these plants come from seeds in its majority, right? We have identified many thousands of plants, out of which 30,000 are edible, but there are 250,000 species identified, however. 30 species of plants and only 5 rice, wheat, maize, and sorghum are capable of producing 60% of the caloric requirement for the world population. We're going to have to continue here, but also through the recovery of seeds to generate a diet that is more diversified to reduce these very important products. On the other hand, I mentioned the opportunities. Now I'm going to the challenge. We know that many countries in development do not have policies for that which relates to seeds, and this reduces the national capacity to access adequate access of quality seeds. Today, we have given an example of how adequate policies can have sustainable aspects to provide them with improved seeds. It is important, obviously, that these seeds are essentials to improve the quality of the crops and have different sowing quality implements to satisfy these growing challenges. Also, the environment. We need to protect the farmers from risks to not using bad quality seeds. It is said that in that which relates to seeds, when farmers have quality and well-priced seeds, and with it, it helps them to strengthen their programs. This means that we the right seed to serve the different interests of the public and private sectors. The seeds are an essential vehicle for the improvement of the farmers' production. We need to value the different local development and preserve them in the many thousands of local varieties that are associated to indigenous farmer production, which have been present for thousands of years in the conservation and management of seeds on the farm. In terms of what FAO does, FAO provides technical support to countries to promote the development of seeds. and also associations at the international, regional, and global levels. This is done through the strengthening of seed production, multiplication, and dissemination, strengthening of associations, providing new local stakeholders and involvement of that are involved in the production of these seeds, to strengthen the capacity building of farmers at the local level, and in fact in the formal and informal levels, to add value, to allow farmers to enter and promote the participation of seed market in the banks of also of seeds, and to be able to disseminate the information of farmers, and legal frameworks in that which relates to the production of quality seeds. These are some of the examples we're going to see today with our experts from FAO, but obviously all the experiences that are brought to us by the different countries, the communities, the farmers, the research centers will help us to seek better solutions and opportunities to improve the access to seeds. I wish you a very successful event and a fruitful dialogue in strengthening the sector and Latin America and the Caribbean. Thank you very much, Ana. Thank you, Maya. In fact, yes, to guarantee access and utilization of the guaranteeing the access of the utilization of the part of the agricultural and seeds and the materials, and also the quality and safety is essential to a sustainable increase in production of the security and safety of food and nutrition. We would now like to invite Wilson Hugo, who is an officer from Roma. Thank you very much. I assume that you can see the screen. Yes, Wilson, thank you. Good afternoon. I'm going to present in 15 minutes the role that FAO has in supporting the seeds. The seed process. I will give you some macro information. Agriculture produces 25.4 million tons of food on a daily basis. That is cereals, roots, tubercular, fruit, and vegetables. That's 900,000 tons of meat, 2.3 million liters of milk, and 487,000 tons of fish. And we recollect from forest 10.6 million cubic meters of wood a day. And this is done by consuming 7.4 trillion liters of irrigation water. That is 80% of the water that humanity consumes is for irrigation, and the rest is for the rest of the cities of the world. With 547,000 tons of fertilizers used on a daily basis and 7,400 tons of chemical products on a daily basis. So the total value of agricultural production is estimated by $9.8 million a day. In addition, agriculture uses almost 1 of every 3 workers in the world. I'm sorry, I should have corrected here. For those that have seen me produce these numbers before, I adjusted them to 2022, so the figures are completely recent. The agriculture provides livelihoods for 2.5 billion people. It produces a social cohesion for the rural environment, cultures, traditions, and many things that are not well recognized. It provides important input for the wildlife, landscape, the habitat, and water management. Let us see this perspective in time so that we can position ourselves in where we are. 50 years ago, we had 3.2 million people. Now we're going to have million in 900, 300 million in 2050. We have tripled the amount of people in the world in a century. And that means that with so many markets, the production for trade, consumption dynamics for imports and exports create a great deal of uncertainty. So what do I mean by this? The markets that buy food overreact, like what happened in Argentina, where 15 million tons are producing 30 to 40% less in soybean. And this was anticipated. The prices increase. And this is what this graphic illustrates. The index of prices by FAO has never been this high as in 2022. This has taken us not only given the Ukraine war, but other problems related to climate change. Now, to pressure the system even more, the biofuel environment has to do with the production of food. Now, given the scenario, we cannot expand, we can retray it through the erosion of floors. The only territories in the world right now where you could sow more would be Amazonia, which is sensitive and not recommendable, and the permafrost in Russia, where there is an enormous amount of gases in the atmosphere. Therefore, we are in a world situation where it is necessary to increase sustainable production. And this is what I wanted to reach, to attain a efficient, sustainable production and distribution of seeds. This is absolutely essential, not only for the farmer, but rather for the entire humanity. And this is what's going on. The systems that exist have different pillars. They are sustained on pillars that have to do with policy and legislation, when governments talks about standards, taxes, subsidies, laws, intellectual property, and so on. It has a scientific profile. It has to do with genetics, technology, physiology, entomology, pathology, and so on. It also has a pillar related to economy, because the production of seeds have to be based on functioning financial investments, marketing, and so on. It has cultural and social perspectives. It has to do with livelihoods, traditions, and local knowledge. And the seeds, in addition, have the function of production that everyone understands, in that relates to food security, the taking the policies into the field, because any genetic biodiversity goes to the seed, and it has functions that have to do with commodities, everything related to business or trade policies to favor the functioning of wholesale production. We also have to do with biodiversity transportation, which have to do with the environment policies, and it has functions that have to do with knowledge, that which is new in and the intellectual property, and also that which have to do with ancestral knowledge. We also talk about the formal versus informal. We don't like to use this word, but it is provocative. It has two different types of system seeds. One has a quality control, which is external. The other one is the users themselves. And we have called it formal versus informal. The seed sector has to have some sort of return on the investment. And we all know what this sentence looks like. There are crops that have a high margin in production and those that do not. There are crops that it's not by a coincidence. The largest seed producers are the hybrids and the vegetable production. And those that are not going to be, it depends on the public development and the small scale farmer as the open pollination seed. These systems coexist, and they coexist in all countries. It is not an area that is exclusive to Latin America and the Caribbean. This exists in every single country. Those that are developed as the most developed countries in the world, they have hybrids, those that are easy to produce and that are generally associated to large-scale producers. There are great pollination systems that are done by private areas. There are communities with the sale of seeds amongst them, and also with native and local register. In Italy, it has been enormously important because there are companies that are produced with bread or pasta that are done with the production of seeds that are ancestral. And these systems coexist in the majority of countries. And what I wanted to mention is that there is always the principle of the demand and the requirement. There is a demand that is going to generate an offer of seeds. And so what do we call a sustainable system? This is a system that is based on time. It survives the moment of crisis and wealth of economies. There are countries with high incomes and low incomes. These are the systems that are sustainable. They are maintained. We maintain the offer and demand requirement. And of course, I must mention that there are different countries that have opted for different options of policy development of completely different that go from the nationalization of production to the mandatory certification of labeling everything. There are contrasting situations that have allowed it to continue. This has to be analyzed country by country. The roles have to be clear. The state, the companies, public sector, and private sector, they must know what they can do and what they cannot do and let go to do it.
This might be a bit repetitive, but each farmer is always going to be in contact here with each one of their ecosystems, seed ecosystems. They will have contact with exotic vegetables. The farmer will be in contact with person that brings hybrid maize by multinationals. A farmer will be in contact with whoever brings different Creole maize or corn varieties from other farmers or native varieties, and they will coexist. And it's not necessary to have one or the other. They coexist all the time. Now I will focus on telling you what the FAO is permanently doing. We have a team in charge of seeds and phytogenetic resources of the FAO, and it has the secretariat of a intergovernmental technical group. There's groups of delegates from different countries that gather every 2 years in the FAO with an advice system. They advise the FAO, and all the government representatives discuss what is a technical advice that they suggest to the FAO, right? The FAO creates a publication on the global status of phytogenetic resources every 2 years. The third one is being finished. It will come out in 2024. Now, the team in this division coordinates a global action plan for phytogenetic resources that is also intergovernmental, and governments have committed to supply information on how the status of phytogenetic resources is in each country, right? I must say that that global action plan is the one that the UN takes as a report for Sustainable Development Goals 2.5.1a, which is the phytogenetic resources, right? And that's taken directly from this work group. And it's permanently advising governments in different seed legislation and conservation of resources and development of the seed sector, and also in the emergency interventions that are conducted in places of crisis, right? FAO supports the conservation of in situ and ex situ resources, which means that this is conservation in farms or in germplasm banks, right? It supports the seed systems by reinforcing them. It supports the genetic improvement or enhancement programs and all types of human and institutional capacities. There's countries that need to work on national strategies of phytogenetic resources, or I left there the acronym in English because it's not translated, but this is an early alert system for phytogenetic resources. There's voluntary guidelines for the conservation of Creole or farmer varieties, and there's also voluntary reports for the conservation of the different species that we consume, right? Which is something that is very important to maintain biodiversity. It's white relatives that sometimes do not see, maybe because they're not part of the agriculture. It's not worth noting which countries exactly they're using this, but when I mention countries in the presentation, it's in the last 2 years, because we just finished the report. We support the conservation in the germplasm banks. We support the strengthening of operations. I saw a typo here, but it's in community seed banks. It's produced on the adoption of varieties, where we use different agricultural farm schools, right? And we put the local varieties, we join them, the Creole varieties and the biofortified varieties, for the farmer to choose exactly in that point, the world, which one they rather on these points. If you let me, I will mention something quite important, right, technically speaking, because when we conduct the official assessments for varieties for the release of new varietals or varieties, normally we do this in experimental fields of research institutes that possibly have more fertility on site on farms that the farmers have, right? That means that when those varieties that were assessed in those places are taken to the farms, they can change their throughput, or the yield, but also the ranking of who won that yields. That's why we need to have. It's so necessary to have these pilots or essays in the agricultural school fields, right? Just to see the real performance of the varieties. As I mentioned, we produce seeds with communities. There's an entire technical package for training different seed companies, production of basic and pre-basic seeds. And many times we work on different accreditation, the ESTA analysis laboratories, and the certification of now we've worked in 12 countries in the last 2 years in reviewing the regulatory framework, or in reviewing different regulations, or just whatever the government requests the FAO formally. These are all delicate topics in which we only work on when there's a specific request to do so. And to conclude, I'd like to comment that emergency interventions in today's world have increased twice as much, have duplicated. We went from distributing $40 million of seed per year to distribute 83 on 2022. And in 2023, with a new war we have in the globe, it seems like it will exceed greatly what we had in 2022. These are not great news. This means a global increase on crisis, right? Different events, and we must work on the start from scratch reinitiation of agricultural production. There's been full destruction. Different warehouses, research centers, universities, or even agricultural communities have been destroyed. So just like to mention that we've worked on supporting genetic improvement enhancement programs in 15 countries in the last 2 years. And with this, I will conclude my presentation. I believe I did it in 15 minutes. So, okay, thank you very much, Wilson. The work that the FAO is doing is very important, just to link everything, all the seed matters. And from your presentation, we can see that from the seed value chain is quite complex, and it requires attention from all the parties, because there's a need to strengthen aspects related with policies, with the regulatory frameworks and institutional frameworks. It also requires a development and dissemination of new technologies, socializing the technologies that are available and to use the traditional varieties and ancestral knowledge too. We will now invite Mrs. Tania Lopez, Executive Director of the National Office of Seeds of Costa Rica. Mrs. Lopez, please, you have 10 minutes. Seems like she's muted. If you could unmute yourself and put this in presentation mode, Mrs. Lopez, we truly appreciate it. I was saying thank you very much to the FAO for this invitation and warm greetings to everyone. That's working. Can you hear me? Yes. My apologies. First of all, I'd like to thank you very much for the invitation, for inviting Costa Rica to this forum. I'd like to comment the experience of the creation of the national policy, seed policy, and I'd like to mention that our office has regular roles. Those everything in terms of certification and quality standards and recording the different commercial or trade variety and the logs and records of conservation of phytogenetic resources, and in applying the seeds legislation is quite standard too. It goes beyond the national legislation with the option of international treaties as the phytogenetic treaty. I'd like to mention that the creation process of the Costa Rica National Seed Policy started a while back ago with conversations from the Seed Office and the Research Center for Seeds and Grains, which dialogue with different stakeholders on the need of a seed policy for the country. Of course, we then requested support in 2015 from the FAO and ICA. It's worth noting that the FAO for us, it's always been quite cooperating, and it's been immersed in the phytogenetic resources and seeds matters, right? Since 2015, from 2015 to 2027, we have different workshops, right? To reach the seed policy we have, which we feel very proud of because it is a true north. And on a daily basis, it lets us cover all of our needs now. In this process, there was 109, we have the participation of 109 representatives from different NGOs, companies, and public institutions. 25 public institutions is a policy that goes beyond the national office, seed office, right? I always compare this with the contribution of to the sustainable development goals, what the seed sector provides, right? The support in terms of combating hunger, innovation, sustainable production, and the incidence in terrestrial ecosystem, the impact, and partnerships, which are so important, right? And because we also have a horizon by 2030, right, which is the Sustainable Development Goals. Now, this is part of the workshops and the participation of many engagement from many people and organizations that participate in this process. And the aim of this policy, if you see there on green, it's multi-objective, right? There's multiple objectives and there's an articulating focus of productive efficiency, contributing to food safety, food security, and preservation of biodiversity, combating and supporting the secondary effects of climate change, and of course, providing products for national and international markets. This policy was declared a public interest in the government of Luis Guillermo Solís. And that gives us that safety, right? That it ensures that it is a long-standing policy and not a policy that's moving with the change of government. Our strategic axis, and here I'd like to say that we're not inventing warm water. Much of this is what we do, and much of this comes out of many FAO publications, documents on seed policies. For example, we have the varietal development. It has to do with genetic improvements of that different research institutes conduct. We have universities and the private sector with the production of seeds and quality assurance, which is the focus of this office. Agricultural extension in terms of seeds, which we consider something that is very important, where we're making efforts, which I'm going to comment on now. The seed market, we also have the development of different seed companies, import and export seeds. Now, this country has so much biodiversity, and that's also reflected in agricultural biodiversity, and that's why it has so much human talent, and those type of conditions allow and will allow the development of many companies, right? Including small companies that can perfectly provide quality seeds, right? And it's critical. Seed safety for us is critical. We're designing an early alert system for the supply of seeds. We think that the lessons learned from the pandemic show us or evidence that it's very important to have availability of seeds, both from that formal and artisanal market that Wilson Hugo was mentioning. And of course, we need to generate and enhance our capacities and skills. Now, the challenges for its implementation, and with this I will conclude, are we've tried to align all the national and institutional planning instruments with the policy, the alignment of the institutional budget that, just like many of your countries, it's more and more restrictive, right? We have the search of international cooperation projects. We, at the time, implemented a project that's funded with the Adaptation Fund, financed by the Adaptation Fund, and we've been able to work much and in many aspects with that part of the sector of the seed industry, right? That responds to artisanal production, seed growing, that requires different intervention measures, extension in terms of seeds. We also try to articulate with stakeholders or actors in the national seed system, and something that's quite intangible and important is to seek an enabling framework, to have a legal framework, quality regulations to promote investments, interaction with the seed industry, seed companies, right? And or seed producers. And we have sought to care for the rights and advocate for the right of farmers as per the definition of Article 9 of the International Treaty on Phytogenetic Resources for Food and Agriculture. Therefore, encouraging that this part of the seed system can have local germplasm banks that we can revitalize and preserve the material, right? To promote seed fairs, and in addition to all the main task of this office, which is the certification and validation, agricultural validation process. Thank you very much, and I'm here for your questions, and hopefully I stayed within the 10 minutes. Thank you very much. thanks to you, Ms. Lopez, for showing us the impressive work that Costa Rica is doing, right? And also because your presentation talks about the importance of having public policies with regulation systems that articulate the actions and the national programs, but also align with the international commitments and the agreements of different countries. It's also important, it's worth noting from your presentation, the need of having roles and responsibilities that are clear, thus stressing the importance of coordination between sectors and institutions linked with the seed producing sector. I hope that the experience of Costa Rica motivates other countries to create the same experience and likewise to exchange that information just to learn from processes. Thank you very much. We'd now like to invite Mrs. Leonexi Garcia, researcher from DANAC Foundation. Please, Ms. Garcia, the floor is yours. You have 10 minutes. Good morning. Can you see my presentation? Please try to put it in presentation mode. Yes. Thank you. Good morning. Welcome to all the panel members. Thank you very much, UNFIO, for your invitation. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Leonexi Garcia. I'm a researcher in Fundación DANAC, which is a research center, an investigation center in Venezuela, which does genetic enhancement of rice, maize, and soy in technology improvements or enhancement technologies. We will today speak about the impact that the use of seed processing has in Venezuela. Can you see me? Yes, if you could please. We can see the first slide. Sorry, I don't see the video. I don't know if you see me. Sorry. We just see the first slide, ma'am. If you want, we can start with Mr. Fernando while we prepare to move your presentation around, or? Okay, yes, if there's no issue, just my apologies, and someone else can start. Okay, we're going to go with Mr. Fernando Henning. He's a researcher from BRAPA. You have 10 minutes, and that will help us support Ms. Leonexi. Okay, so direct researcher from BRAPA. Floor is yours, sir.
Thank you.
Now, yes? Okay, thank you. So first of all, I would like to say thank you to all the organization and to FAO for this invitation. It's an honor to me to be here. I did part of my my doctorate with FAO materials, so to me it's an honor to be here. In name of my leaders from Embrapa, we would like to say thank you and welcome to all people that are joining us via internet. So I'd like to show you some of our soybean seed treatment, an overview, the past, present, and future actions and challenges that we have here in Brazil. So I'm a research scientist. I work to Embrapa. Embrapa is the Brazilian Agricultural Research Corporation. Our mission is to create research, development, and innovation solutions to ensure sustainability of agriculture for the benefit of Brazilian society. When we talk about sustainability, it's good to be here to talk about seeds, the importance of quality, and to talk a little bit about seed treatment. In these years, Embrapa is celebrating 15 years, and my unit is celebrating 48 years. In these 48 years, we are working hard with seed, especially soybean seed treatment. So I will share you something about our experience and our data. Embrapa is spread all over the Brazilian country. We have 43 sites. Which one works with one crop or a singularity in some region. We have laboratories in the exterior, like in Italy, US, France, China, and other countries. My site stayed here in the south of Brazil, in Londrina. It's a city that is crossed by the Tropic of Capricorn, which is very strategical when we talk about the development of new cultivars and breeding programs. We have some advanced sites spread all over the Brazilian country. And in these sites, we did breeding, but we produced data related to soybean seed quality and soybean seed treatment too. A little bit about my site. We are in the south, so we have 58 research scientists. For and Technology Center that I want to show you a little bit, because people from Latin America especially came to here to do some training with us, especially trainings related to seed quality and seed treatment. In this seed center, we have 4 labs. One is the post-harvest. The second one is chemical and molecular analysis, all related to soybean seed quality. And finally, we have the seed pathology and seed physiology and technology lab. In this structure, we realize lots of training sessions, especially in tetrazolium tests and seed pathology. Seed pathology it's training people about how to treat seeds. As you can see, it's a hands-on training. So everybody from Latin America, all over the world, can come to Embrapa and join us in these training sessions. Here's a very special, the participants, they are from Latin America, not even in Brazil, but other countries from Latin America. As the main part of the event, there are no good crops without good seeds. And so the harvest depends on what you plant. Unfortunately, in Brazil, we have a very serious problem with piracy. So the producers, they use uncertified, unofficial seeds. Genetic traits, we are not the same as the direct that agriculture have to save part of their productions to plant their own areas. This is not the same thing. I'm talking about piracy. This is the main problem that we have here in our seed world. Here is one example that happens close to Embrapa. A small farm that produce seeds without quality control and sell it in the market, like Pars. They use the name of the Brazilian bank check, like cheque ouro. It's not official cultivar, and they spread lots of wild mold in Paraná state. Here in this picture, we have the percentual, the amount of market of the seed market that suffer with the Pars in seeds. The risks to agriculture, there are many. I put something, but especially the last two ones, we lost productivity, we have misinformation in field, and then we lost external competitiveness. In this picture, we have the amount of money that the Brazilian agriculture lost with Pars in each season, only with soybean, 2.4 billion of reais, almost $500 million. The risk for the farmers, they are many, but something related especially with seed quality is to spread pests and disease, for example, nematodes, weeds, disease, loss of genetic purity, drop in productivity, and especially low performance, low productivity, and low profitability. The first recommendation of Brazilian soybean seed treatment is from Embrapa in 1981, from Embrapa soybean, from my site, and then we extended to all over the country in 83. Nowadays, we treat soybean seeds with lots of products that I put here, but something that I want to pay attention, the agricultors have to be attentive to that, is to use only the products that the technicians say to them to use. Please don't spend money in something that you will not need to use in your area. About the evolutions, especially related to seed treatment, we have in these pictures is very clear. In 70s, on farm without protection for producers, technicians, we end with the environment. In 8s and 9s, we have the enter of some machines, but nowadays we have this. We have this structure that produce industrial seed treatment. They are much safer, and not only for producers and technicians, but to environmental too. Nowadays, we have some very large areas, millions of hectares here in Brazil, especially to plant seeds, plant soybean. So it requires a complexity logistical between crops. Then, because of this alternative of seed treatment is something that our industry is invest money and knowledge to develop and to make all the things good. Here is some of our first experiments with fungicides, because we are in a tropical area, showing the efficiency of some fungicides. And here in the left, we have the first seeds that we treat here in 8s with benzimidazole, which is already one very good fungicide that we have in the market, and in the right, the control without coat. So you can see the difference and the importance of the seed treatment. In field, especially under drought conditions, we saw clearly the difference between the treated soybean and untreated soybean seeds. The treated are low in the video, and the untreated are on the top of the video. This is what happens with seeds untreated and when they goes to the soil without a good fungicide or without a good seed treatment. They stay there, especially under drought conditions, but with the moisture from soil, moisture from the night, seeds acquire humidity, and then fungi enter and colonize all the seeds. When we have seeds treated, this reality do not happen, and we keep the quality. Carry that we must have. This is a work that we here at Embrapa did in 4 crop seasons. We evaluate the soybean and grains from grains and seeds from soybean from all over the Brazilian areas. And so we know all the damage that happens in the field, in the harvest, and during the storage. The most common pathogens to pass through the agricultures, the best information about the seed treatment and about something that they have to take care before realize seed treatment. One of them is this. Lots of producers harvest the soybean seeds fields, and then in this picture we have some physical damage. This micro physical damage cause the enter of pathogens, but can cause too a loss of efficiency of the fungicides. Everything that I'm telling you here is on this publication. There are QR codes here, and you can access to see. So before treat the seeds, we have to check their physical quality too. Not only the physiological, but the physical, it's very important. Here is another publication from my team that we test lots of products, conditions. So please access here to check all this information. Here is another preoccupation from our part, that is the to provide access to identify correctly the pathogens that happens in soybean seeds. Sometimes we know that the technicians have misunderstand about what kind of pathogens happens especially on soybean seeds. So here we have this publication. It's a practical guide. We have this we publish that in English, Portuguese, and Spanish. So please download and check that. As considerations, we know that with the advance of technology in seed treatment, the volume of seed treated in Brazil tripled. This is a big market, but nowadays we have installed treatment capacity of more than 20 million bags. But we have to take care, especially with the costs, especially producers have to look at the costs. So use the best product, use only what you really need on your area. And new products are coming. And with that, new challenge too, especially related to biological. How to use that together with chemical products. This is something that we are working hard here. And especially from 2022, last year, we have here in Brazil a new law related to new biological inputs. Research companies as Embrapa and private companies and universities, we are together evaluating and checking the efficiency of this product in combination with chemical or without chemicals, only to check the performance of these products at the field conditions. Here are some examples, some materials from my company, from Embrapa. We have a book about trichoderma. It's a fungi that we realize that's very efficient for soybean seed treatment. So we have many works, many results that I want to share with you. And we have a bioinput book in the culture of soybean, not only in soybean seed treatment, but related to insect, fungi control in leaves and stem too. Okay. So this is something that I want to share with you. So please follow us. We have many sites. We have our official sites, but we have a YouTube channel with lots of documentaries, lots of information, especially about seed quality. And I want to share with you my email. So if you have any questions, please, I'm available as Embrapa, as a public institute, as a public company. We are here to provide you all the help, all the things. Thank you very much.
Muchas
Gracias.
gracias a usted, señor Henry, por compartir la experiencia de Embrapa. Es muy importante, y lo vemos desde su presentación, la necesidad de promover enfoques que reconozcan,
The
fortalezcan.
importance and of this institution, that it integrates the functions of different players so that it can be involved in the seed area. We also understand the importance of research, innovation, and the generation of capacities that are linked to nutrition, to health, but also to the need to understand which are the treatments that can help us to better take on these aspects of food security. I would also like to mention the significance of providing information, but also of generating information for decision-making the process. And I would like to also give you the opportunity that Embrapa provides us to learn about your processes. Thank you very much. We would like to introduce Leonexi Garcia. We'll be supporting her from here with her presentation. Javiera, please. Can you hear me? Leonexi, we're going to share your presentation. Give us a second, please. It's shared. And you can hear me well, right? Please let us know when we move the slide. Okay. As I said, I gave you my name, where I come from. This is a very important about this treatment of seeds in Venezuela in the Foundation Dama. I will tell you what the seed looks like in Venezuela. This began in 2013. We began to have a scarcity of food. So this brought a reduction of offer and treatment for production. Products such as maize, which is one of the most important sources of food for Venezuelans, to produce flour or to consume it directly. The lack of availability of agricultural sources for national production, and there was a series of price regulation vis-a-vis the local seed, which was not attractive for the local seed producer. This also showed an increase in price of imports, both of food products, and also an open window was allowed for imported seeds, which inclined the preference of the national producer for the seed that came from abroad vis-a-vis the one produced locally. This also was influenced by the fact that there are certain differences that are quite notable in quality management when referring to seeds in Venezuela. Here we can see some, the bag, it comes in various layers. The national seed does not come in different layers. They use polypropylene type of sacks. We can see the coverage and the classification of quality management of the seed. This is the sample of seeds that we've had, and we use them as a witness and reference when talking about treating it. Here we have the national and the international. We can see a better uniformity in classification and type and size. The domestic one is not uniform. Also, when talking about coverage of the transnational seeds are well covered, with use of technologies such as polymers, coloring. There is a coverage that is very uniform, whereas the domestic one is opaque. You can see some damage of microorganisms, which could have a negative effect when planting them. You can see a map. This map shows that 83% of the seed sowed in Venezuela is occupied by imported hybrids, whereas the national one only represents 12%. Next, please. So we see the importance of seed treatment. But here we can see some aspects. I'm going to explain the treatment. It is not more than applying a coverage to protect and coadjuvate the seed given what they can be exposed to, insects, plagues, and other diseases in the first stages of its development. There can be a biostimulant system that can help the plant and until it is photosynthetically autonomous. Given this, many institutions at the world level that develop seeds and have high genetic potential, they know that the best seeds can fail, and they have researched extensively to understand the treatment of seeds. What did we try to do? We wanted to close the gap in the system in seed production, given the quality, offering a high quality seed, and we carried out a treatment of seeds. We began to explore a world that was unknown for us. How did we train? We sought out experts, having consultancy with them, researching profoundly, researching the printed literature. We began, one of these problems was to utilize only the molecules that were available in the market and that we could work with, which were recommended by the manufacturers. What was the safety use in each product? When carrying out the mixture or slurry, what was required for each kilogram of seed? We had to do a slurry that would give us from 7 to 11 cc's per kilogram of seed. So we started to implement extensive techniques to carry out a simulation of these coverages and carry out experiments. So based on everything we learned, we established various stages. First, we created a team of researchers, multidisciplinary experts, setting forth the formulations that were available in the domestic market. We assessed the costs that would be applied to our seed. After we carried out these, we generated the different slurries with the different combinations. We carried out a coverage simulation, and then we carried out the appearance, considering color, shine, global aspect, and coverage. Then we generated a reference. We verified the effectiveness with the different pathologies, generated vigor and germination analysis. We carried out different slurry volumes, the extension of the root, and so on. In the formulas themselves, when they were assessed, they went to large-scale production and applied to big batches of 1,000 kilograms, and we compared it to the aspect reference. with all this knowledge that we were able to acquire, we have carried out more than 10 lab essays where we have generated more than 200 formulations combining different molecules, carboxyl, thioran, metalaxine, and so on. All those listed there, polymers and other biological products. We added color, we analyzed the polymers and introduced biological analysis. Next, please. When we introduce polymers, we use different coloring, but the most important reference for the producer is the orange and dark or pink or red were the preferred colors. So we continued with these polymers. Here you can see some characteristics. It has major advantages which distributes it gives us an exact identification that the seed is protected. We have a lower amount of abrasion. We have higher visual attraction of the seed and an improved both flow when filling the sacks and also sowing them. This is a product that is biodegradable. It does not damage the seed and it does not damage the soil. We obtained very relevant results. We were able to validate more than 10 formulations that are applied at the scale given our commercial seed. As I said previously, we began only with coloring, and then we were able to validate in 4 different formulas that were very efficient. And then when we introduced the polymers, we could vary the formulas until we were able to reach this treatment, which is the one we use and commercialize. We continue to carry out formulations. Our idea is to migrate towards the combinations with biological products. We observed while validating this formula that we could obtain plants with a higher level of germination that are more stronger, flourish between 70 and 90% protection vis-a-vis other non-treated seeds. We've created some vigor sampling where we have been able to analyze these plants and treatment. And we were able to achieve many more that we will surely inform you of and we can publish.
When we started introducing the seed treatments, this was very interesting because one of the issues that the biological treatments present is that due to their manufacturing, there's many that are pelletized or that have granulometries that are, they're too big, the gauges. So when these are introduced in the treatments and when they're applied as coverage, they don't give you an attractive visual appearance. Therefore, this was an issue when we were having the appearance testing, right? But we were able to see positive effects. Like here, for example, we tested both bacteria and different trichodermas, among others, different bacteria such as Psilocybin by using the dosage recommended by the manufacturer. And since we told you that granulometry was the issue, we had to lower the dosage. And we were able to see that due to the load of colony-forming units that each one of these products had, we were able to reach the same results in specific characteristics. So we were also able to compare that different species of the same biological product, like trichoderma, we have the aspergillum versus Harzianum. Trichoderma had differences, and we had positive results, but we saw that Trichoderma asperellum had a result that was more significant when combined with this treatment. Lornexi, sorry for the interruption, but if you could start concluding, it'd be great because we don't have enough time. Okay, so we used a seed treatment equipment when we were a research center. We have, and this is the equipment that helps us comply with our purpose. It's not, it's ongoing flow, continuous flow processing machine, which 80 to 100 kilograms of seed it can process, and it doesn't have that much capacity as you see on the screen, right? And we want to migrate to a tank that is of industrial use or larger that helps us strengthen our processing system. So this generated a large impact. Approximately, we've been working or researching for 3 years, and we've been able to manufacture or produce more than 12,420 liters of treatment to cover 69,000 bags of seeds, which would cover 53,000 hectares. So, right, and we could produce, according to the yield of our material, 318 million kilos of grain to produce 255 pre-cooked meal kilos to feed 8,300,000 Venezuelans. In the map that I commented in the first slide, we saw that the production of 2017 was 12%, right, of the national average. And this number accounts for 20% of the surface sowed on 2022. What are the challenges we have had? We want to provide a quality seed that is friendly with the environment. We want to use more biological elements and reduce the agrochemicals, right? To have sustainable intensification for seed treatment, to change new technologies for the application of seed treatment, to change the opinion of the growers on our national seeds, and to increase different scale-ups of the production of seeds, and to generate strategic alliances or partnerships with institutions, research institutions. This is very important. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Leonexi, for showing all the work that Fundación DANAC is doing, but also for talking about the importance of research and multidisciplinary work, in addition to the importance of partnerships in the development of options that can impact communities and families of small-scale producers. We would now like to invite Marcia Werner, Director of Research and Technology of Incotec. The floor is yours, Marcia. Okay, hello everyone. Having access to precise and update information on the last techniques and advances in terms of seeds is critical for our society. That is why I'd like to congratulate the organization for creating this event. It is an honor for me to participate here. Well, I'm Marcia. I'm responsible for research and development in Incotec, which is a multinational company specialized on seed treatment. And this year, we will celebrate our 55 years focused on seeds. And the topic for my presentation is here the coding, pelleting, and curling. It has to do much with the event of today because there's not good crops without good seeds, right? And in the moment we start treating seeds, the success of a good crop starts to define. So good care of seeds guarantees we have a uniform pattern on site, which thus reflects better profitability. And we must put the seeds in the center of attention. Whichever it is, maize, or if it's sunflower, the seed, or soybean, wheat, cotton, whatever it is, seeds have an important role to start a healthy crop and to enhance itself, right? It faces different fungi infections, different attacks from insects and adverse weather conditions. There are different methods for treating or processing seeds, like the application of phytosanitary chemicals or biological ones to prevent pests, the incorporation of microorganisms, biostimulants, biofertilizers, and also nutrients that brings interesting benefits in the increase of quality, enhancement of quality and productivity of harvest and crops. In addition, we have some technologies in seed treatment that can help mitigate stress, antibiotic stress in plants like heat or cold. An important point is that seed treatment must remain in the seed, right? And for that purpose, the additive addition is done through technologies like the pedicles, coating technologies like pelleting or curling, which I'll comment on later on. Now, film formers or film coatings, or popularly called polymers, is not a correct term, but there are some products that have the polymer composition, but not all of them. But that's what they're usually called, right? But we have different compositions or compounds to adapt to different seeds or combination of products that are applied, right? And we hope we can have sustainable products in their composition. But there's no magical wand that helps or solution that helps to obtain this quality treatment. We have to choose the most adequate products and processes, and whatever we apply on the seed must stay in the seed. The treatment must have a high resistant to abrasion and low dust off to guarantee production that is optimal and throughput that is yield that is optimal. And so it makes it safer to work with seeds during processing, packaging, transport, and sowing. A good fluidity, right, avoids the formation of different matters in the machine, and it improves everything. And rapid drying accelerates the treatment process, and you'll add different colors, right? And you'll make the seed more attractive. But this is also important to avoid the consumption. Now, pelleting is other type of technology, right, that can use pelleting and curling, other types of technologies that can be used according to the seeds and the needs. In this case, there's a change of format, size, weight of the seeds due to the addition of a coarse layer with a subsequent application of dust and a liquid coating, right? The main objective is to improve uniformity in sowing, mainly harvesting with machines to add size or volume to small seeds and to enable the intelligent application of acids, active products, and additives. Now, this process, why do we use this process, the pelleting and curling? Because it reduces the incidence of double sowing, right? And here we have a study on the accountability of maize seeds by using drone images here to measure the number of plants and the spacing between them. And in the graphs, we can see the results of non-embedded seeds, right? Maize seeds, and the ones that are in the lower graph, right? That are actually curled. And this means that there's less duplications or empty spaces, right? That have a direct impact on the better use of land or soil to have more productivity. Another interesting use of the pelleting part is that since it is a posterior subsequent to liquids and dust, you create layers and open spaces for more complex treatment of seed, which lets add space for the incorporation of microorganisms. So that's very interesting for seed treatment. It also allows the use of more complex slurry or mixed higher density slurry, high complexity mixtures to protect the seeds. That's what we call the seed space, right? We increase the seed space. There are three main types of seed coating, as I said. Well, we must differentiate them. The film coating uses a polymer as a fixator to measure the compounds of the active parts of the seeds, like biostimulants, etc. The film coating reduces the harmful dust of the treated seeds in addition to producing a smooth surface for seeds to flow through sowing and processing smoothly, right? And the color lets you differentiate the seeds, adding color, and it's worth noting that the film coating or polymer coating does not change the form or the shape of the seed. Now, pelleting covers the seed with a shell that increases the size and the weight of the seed. And you have a leaf, you ensure a sphere, right? The pelletization of seeds improves management and efficiency of sowing. You can also incorporate active ingredients with the benefit that the shell protects the seed from the contact of phytotoxic chemicals, for example, phytotoxic chemicals. And curling is similar to pelletization, right? And the main difference is that curled seeds require more from the original seed. That's where you increase the size, the weight, and the disease of the seed, and you improve efficiency. But it seems like it's a bit cheaper, the process, and faster, more accessible. Seeds must not only be protected, but the farmer has to be it has to be easy for them to manage it, right? Also, we have the increase of the quality of the crop, which impacts financially, right? We have some technologies that could have a significant impacts on sustainability. Now, when you apply different pesticide and the protection of seeds through those seeds, we can reduce the compounds directly applied significantly without committing its protections. Therefore, proper treatment must present colorful seeds, right? Because there's a rule that treated seeds must be identified to avoid consumption, but also because the good aspect of seeds is often related with a good quality treatment. Therefore, seeds have to have all the phytosanitary products, stimulants, nutrients, whatever, in the correct doses, which means that the treatment has to be uniform and that the abrasion conditions that happen during the transport of the seeds and storage has to present no lack of material, no loss of material, right? The soil must be optimized. That means that the treatment received must not negatively affect the capacity of sowing the seeds, right? And whenever possible, we have to improve these aspects. Now, the application must be safe. We cannot have a loss of product. And industrial application, modern industrial application brings great benefits now for protecting the seeds with low generation of dust, also to avoid environmental pollution. And we have to ensure that all this treatment maintains the physiological quality of the seeds, which is the safety of the seeds, right? In addition to pesticides, treatment of seed treatment is normally done with the application of coating material to protect and to improve treatment. That's why we have these technologies available. And that's why we continue researching and looking for more technology, more innovation in this area. It's worth noting that seed treatment and processing, it's an important tool to ensure a healthy harvest or crop that is also abundant. I'd like to thank all of you, and I'm here to answer your questions. Thank you. Thank you very much, Marcia. This is what Incotech is doing is quite relevant, right? We would like to thank you for how relevant your presentation is and how this stresses the link between how you did this link between having a good seed and good crops. To know that there's not only one recipe, one treatment, but you also mentioned that it's important to have updated information, or not having updated information weakens the capacity of countries to provide proper and timely access to quality seeds, right? And it also limits the access to new production technologies. Thank you very much for your presentation, ma'am. And before we conclude, I'd like to inform you that the presentations that we've showed now will be available at the event's website. We'll share the links in the different chats, in the chat boxes, and we're streaming here this. And we are now going to go with Margaret Gutierrez, responsible for the Agro Venezuela mission. Miss Margaret, you have 5 minutes, please. Good morning. Good morning. Can you hear me? It is a pleasure for us to reach you from the Mission Agro Venezuela, from the Seed Vortex. Minister Javiera Jimenez, Ministry of Productive Agriculture, and Minister Gabriela from the Ministry of Science and Technology. Everyone would like to greet the seminar. Would like to greet you and convey how important it is to be treating production of seeds, of quality seeds here in Venezuela. Now, as we've mentioned, quality seed has two fields: the one that's are produced by our farmers and their systems, and farm systems, and this in whatever is what we call formal seeds, which are certified. But we in Venezuela, we consider that both systems are complementary. Now, in that regard, we're quite aware of the importance here of productivity of the national seeds, right, for national sovereignty. And that's within our planning body. It's all contemplated. And for our nation. The achievement of this great objective, also aware of the fact that Venezuela is a quite diverse country, has the center of origin and diversity of some of the very high importance cultures for food and agriculture that contribute to global population, both in legumes and cereals and the brown cocoa that is so important for the world. Venezuela is committed for the conservation and use of phytogenetic resources of all these crops, and we've seen how this has been mentioned by many of the lecturers before, right? For the genetic enhancement and work, both participatory enhancement and formal enhancement, and we can use our materials to benefit the global population, the Venezuela population. So I would like to ratify those greetings, and we're very committed with this seminar and with continuing with all your interesting presentations. Thank you very much, Mrs. Margaret. We kindly receive your greetings, and I also like to mention how important it is, the commitment, right? As you mentioned, the commitment of government institutions to strengthen and enhance the seed chains, along with ensuring food safety, security, and before we go into our other matters, I'd like to thank all the 600 or so attendees that are here in this event today. I'd like to invite Mr. William Guzman, maize grower of Managa, Venezuela. Please, Mr. William, you have 10 minutes to share your experience. William, sir, we're waiting for you. We believe your mic is muted. Please try. to activate it. Hello, good afternoon. Good afternoon, sir. I'd like to kindly greet our people from Latin America and the Caribbean. We're here in Moragas, Venezuela. Thank you very much for the invitation to share and participate in this important seminar. I'd like to share the experience that we've had as a collective in our community. On 2020, along with the FAO and TVA, we received a project for the participatory improvement or production of seeds. And in that project, we were able to change many techniques that we were applying, right, that were not the most proper techniques adequate. We saw the need of producing quality seeds to maintain our crops. And through this project, we fostered community organization as a need for growers to stay in contact, right, one with the other, and to share experiences and to be able to keep updated on the new technologies that start emerging. And we initiated a project after many training sessions, and we created a local productive committee. We did the management, and we, along with them, we started producing seeds. We created the local bank for seeds, and after this, we started doing self-management and the production of seeds of the different crops that we were producing. Originally, we produced maize, cassava, and beans. And in the training process that we had in the project, we were able to obtain training through workshops, theoretical workshops, where we shared the basic notions for genetic improvement and the production of seeds. We then had some practical workshops where we did a germplasm gathering, and we specialized in improvement techniques and recurrent selection. Thanks to this, we obtained the necessary tools to establish different areas for sowing and to create plots with controlled pollination and free pollination.
The fundamental activity to empower the farmer in obtaining seeds is based on empower ourselves with knowledge and transmit it amongst ourselves and in other communities in the region. We can observe a image here where we are located at the east of Venezuela. This is where our parcel lies. This image illustrates one area that has 400 hectares, 40 hectares, sorry, 400 hectares of land with a clay-like soil with median fertility with abundant water in the subsoil, which allows us to produce during the entire year. The participative maize local improvement program was understood as a fundamental tool to empower the farmer in having quality seeds. We need to produce seeds, conserving the original seeds that we have been using constantly, because in other opportunities, we have had problems with seeds that comes from other areas that do not adapt to the climatic needs or characteristics of our area. So what is this program geared towards, which comes with the support of INEA and the accompaniment and support of FAO? It is directed to small-scale farmers in small areas, which are linked to ours. So what do we seek as goals? We want to establish a participative genetic improvement and seed multiplication program for the local crop producers. We have two achieved goals on a short term: to achieve 2 outstanding materials and to produce our own seed. I would like to tell you a little bit about the phyto improvement. As you can see, it is stated based on a genetic improvement, based on knowledge and experiences of participant or stakeholders, improving the participation of the community to improve progressively all the techniques that we use for production. This is based on local improved varieties. Each time we carry out work, we improve the seed, we are improving the yield and therefore productivity and reducing dependency. We select based on agronomic behavior under the conditions of natural fertility of our soils, climate, input, scope input, and the preferences of consumption of each community. Here you can see the experiences we've had on site, our workshops, and our field work, in addition to training. We have been receptors of training on behalf of the technicians that have come and supported us constantly. We have also become a small workshop or tool where we have children from primary, secondary school, and universities, where we have carried out, we have created in our environment a school with a hardworking women that have been involved in all of these events. You can see images here of the workshops we have carried out, field work, and it is quite extraordinary the experience we have achieved because we gather the community. Everyone is centered around learning. When we have had visits from children in particular, we're very delighted to see that we are able to be in open areas learning. And they are so delighted to see how food is produced. They see the food, they see not only on their plate, but they see how it's done. Let's see, beans and maize and others. Here you can see how we improved our seeds with the tools we've had, which are very scarce. We have had a controlled analysis of seeds. We use the available technologies. We identify 4 different types of maize that we had in the zone with some cross analysis, as you can see here. We continue to produce seeds. We have some images of production fields in Curucay. where we can see the quality of the soil. This image, after various crossings, cross analysis, we were able to deliver to the bank Unfortunately, we're having connection problems with Venezuela. Thank you, William, for the very hard work that the producers in Venezuela have developed, because they are researchers, they're technicians, they're improvers, they're masters, and particularly they are players that have been rescuing and keeping seeds that are so so importantly relevant for the food security. And we'd like to thank you for the articulated technical participation with FAO Venezuela. Thank you very much, Mr. William, and we hope that you are able to connect again. We will continue, notwithstanding, we would like to invite Blanca Victoria Landero from Nicaragua, and Mr. Jorge Garcia, the director of the Seeds Center in Nicaragua. Madam, you have 5 minutes. I am a small-scale producer. We are also involved in the community bank. These are local seeds and improvements. We are part of the municipality of Chinandega and the department in Nicaragua. This bank met in November of 2012 with the support of FAO and INTA. We created the bank in 2012. A group of producers where there are 5 women and 5 men. We are already working with the bank. We are protecting the local foods. We are multiplying it and sowing it, because this is our identity. And the seed bank is so important, and that's why we are protecting it. We are training children, students, and men and women on the environment, climate change, and that we have to care for the seed as we care for our family, our parents, because the seed are our identity, and it is like our family. It comes from my past family, and that's why we're caring for it so carefully. Today, the World International Seed Day, I congratulate FAO for having commemorated this day and this Congress, because we're thankful that you invited us. We are in farmers markets. That's where we also provide the seeds and organic fertilizers, because the seed goes hand in hand with a new protection. We are rebuilding with organic, natural support of these seeds. We are also go to fairs, the Ministry of Economics. We are also we have our own farmers markets. We generate all sorts of natural, organic compost or fertilizers. We are being supported by FAO. And we sell it and we generate it also. We work with the land, the soil, and with the seeds that are local. The next one, please. Here, 30% of the seeds go to partners of the bank. 20% is kept and cared for, and 50% is sold, lent, or given away. As a bank, we also lend the seed so that the seed is given back, because at a certain moment we could lose our seed given a natural phenomena, but we know in which community the seed is available. So this is what we're doing. 50% is sold, loaned, or given away. Here we are with the children, always involving the children, because that's where the change takes the teenagers, in children and youth. That's where change takes place. And in women, we are working the earth differently as never before. We have INTA that has trained us in different topics on natural insecticides, various trainings we've had with them, because we are trying to learn. Next. Our varieties, we talk about white maize, the yellow, and the black, and the red beans. That's what the bank is producing. Seeds of a black, yellow, and white seeds, and also a red bean, always to support our food security with the support of FAO and INTA. And these are the institutions that support us as a bank. We always have the seed of the next cycle. We don't stay, after they produce, they leave, they have nothing. We always have seeds. We have the seeds. There you can see the crops there. Next, please. I would like to thank first God, secondly, FAO, the MXIT, and INTA. We have to care for our seeds. We have to care them. I'm calling upon all the farmers that we produce. Don't be afraid of producing with agroecological practices, because this bank is available. And the good agroecological practices are very important. And you can see the different silos where we have the seeds, and we are supporting and helping the seeds with all the different products that we have, and so on. We have the food, thanks to God. And then FAO, AMEXIT, and INTA that is supporting us with their techniques. And FAO with team tools for agriculture. Thank you very much. And congratulations on this World International Day of Earth. We know, and for the International World Day for Seeds, we know that without soil, without seeds, and without water, we have no life. We have to care for all of this. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madame Blanca, for making relevant the role of women in the chain of seed production and preserving our identity and preserve these local seeds. Thank you very much for telling us how these seed banks work and how they are linked to the risk of the scarcity of seeds in Nicaragua. And also, I would like to thank you and for making relevant all the work that we have done with you. Now we will have Jorge Garcia, who's going to present their experience in community, in public policies. You have 5 minutes. Yes, thank you very much. I would like to thank FAO and all the organizers and presenters that have come before me for giving us such valuable information. To begin this presentation, I just wanted to say that there has been a FAO hand-in-hand support throughout consumption and trade. IPSA is the regulating body of the seed bank, and this is a work that we have been implemented in a systematic manner in which we have been put into practice. We have followed this methodological process that FAO has, and what is a national seed process, the policies, the legal framework, and all of this has allowed us to understand how to structure in an extensive number of processes that has come to a reality that is present in Nicaragua for many years now. Next, please. The community seed banks have existed since 2008. If you remember, there was an increase in prices, particularly in Central America. And at that moment, our government saw the need of having seed banks. In 2014, we began a process of seeking how to create a legal protection of the seed banks, and we created a reform of the production and trade of seeds. And it was not a reform in a legal structure, but the organization took place in 2019. We created a national diagnosis and carry out a policy to certify the seeds in quality based on the banks that we had to understand how it worked. In Nicaragua, we had 3 different kinds. One of them was local, improved, and mixed seeds. We initiated, how do we create? In the case of improved seeds, we could certify them, following standards and procedures that had been implemented or that were structured in the law. We later realized that the banks had problems complying with these standards, and as a regulatory institution, we modified in 2020 a seed certification process linked to banks for improved seeds. And then we needed to support the local seeds to maintain the high level of local seeds. We have gone with these, based on these lines or procedures, we have supported 60 banks throughout the countries. There are 5,000 banks under the 3 modalities that I mentioned, the local, improved, and mixed. And we have followed up on about 100 banks, but the constant support has been in 60 banks. One has already been able to certify seed production rice in a department called Ginotea in Nicaragua. We have also set forth a proposal for the new seed law with a protection of seed policies that need to be incorporated into the legal framework of the country. We have a new draft where we need to include banks, seed banks. Here is the kind of timeline that I mentioned. This began in 2014. The AMEXIC project was launched in 2015. In some of these processes, this has achieved not only with the support of FAO and the local articulation with the local communities, the South-South agreement, and also with the involvement of the private industry as well as the academia. So what have we learned specifically as from the standpoint of banks? They need a certification instrument that needs to be adapted in order to maintain the quality of the seed. We need to center our efforts on certifying the seed production. They know how to produce, they know what it involves to have a good seed, but we need to help them on how to trade the seeds that they produce. So we need to respect the varieties that they require. We should not impose varieties or materials. When they ask us for materials, they know what they need. We need to not include things that are foreign to them. The seed banks, in one of the lessons learned, have increased a yield, for example, in the case of a bean from 8 quintals to 20 times, just so that we understand the food safety here. And it also creates a higher income. A very active participation of women in all banks. This has been seen extensively. In the past, it used to be work carried out by men. It was a little bit chauvinistic, the environment, but this has changed quite a bit. As a conclusion of this experience, to strengthen the national seed system in Nicaragua, it is important to take into account a legal framework that promotes the organization of community seed banks. We need to, as I said, it's already in the political proposal, the community bank systems, and also there has to be a scaling of an organizational model to a higher level. What do I mean by this? If there are 5,000 banks in the country, how does the organization strengthen collectively, which will give it higher competitiveness at the moment of entering markets? It's the same. It's not the same to produce 20 quintals for the community, but rather they themselves enter a more formal market where they will be required to have more robust structure, let's say, and we will continue supporting them there. So what are our challenges as a country? We need to link all the institutions in a more concrete manner to strengthen these seed banks. We have to have a coherence and between the seed production and the new law. There should be an implementation process that is communication-based, not only what the banks are doing, but that people around it understand what's happening, both domestically and to understand the efforts that are being implemented. Where has it been particularly important? During the pandemic, many of these producers maintained their production and were able to distribute food to many people. These efforts need to be visibilized. When other crisis takes place, we need to make sure that people understand and know all these efforts and works carried out by our colleagues. The efforts of including youth and women are very important because we need to make sure that they stay in the field and they enter and understand these processes, because we have many producers that are older, and we need to promote the participation of youth. We want to seek an environmental, responsible, economic, and sustainable seed. This is my contact, and I think I complied with the 5 minutes. Thank you, Jorge, and thank you for the time and for making important that public policy reinforces the initiative of producers in different communities and guarantees, in the case of Nicaragua and other countries, the availability of on-time production initiatives as the improved seed banks. And also it's important, as you mentioned, is the need to adapt public policies to the conditions of the communities and to set forth the importance of women and youth. We will now go to Wilson Hugo, who's going to give us a summary of the presentations and to provide us with an answer to the questions that have been set forth in the chat. Wilson, would you please close this area? Thank you very much. Thank you. I have a great deal, many things to say, comments and questions. And we don't have more than 5 minutes because we are delayed. I'm going to be as brief as possible. Number one, very happy with all these presentations because at FAO, we are mandated to bring to this kind of events the enormous amount of opinions and diversity as possible. We don't carry out events for one type of farmers, for everyone. So we have seen different realities and different solutions. That's why we say at FAO, we do not have a solution for all the countries or for all the productive situations. Therefore, we see how the soya in Brazil is a large-scale production. It is very sensitive. It is an introduced, has diseases that are very sensitive to the crop, and we know that we need to have a very generic system with an amount of certified seeds. In other realities, it is not a limiting factor. They need to have local seeds. They need to have genetic diversity. They need to have sustainability at the small scale producer. So FAO is always promoting the presentation of different systems and contrasting as part of the dialogue. When dealing with the treatment of seeds, I wanted to say that given the excess of chemical products in the world and the excess use of chemicals, we consider that the treatment of seeds are green technology because it significantly reduces the application of chemicals in hectares. It is intelligent. It is added to a seed, and instead of thousands per hectares, it goes from grams to hectares. And this is what I've been working with treatment of seeds as an intelligent manner to of intelligent farming. And I have a question for Fernando for the future. How do you reduce, kill the soya that I know that 50 million hectares that is planted, that you utilize inoculation? I would like to clarify that in some of the presentations, there were brands and that FAO does not promote any commercial branding of any type, only technologies per se without commercial brands. Now I will try to answer with the few minutes we have at least 3 main questions. There is a gentleman that was not identified. He appears as Obi-Wan Kenobi. I would like to know what your name is, please. And you ask about transgenic FAO or not. FAO has a policy about transgenics. There is a tool that's valid to solve problems in some cases, and it's not necessary in other cases. But it is in the hands of the different governments, whether they utilize it or not, depending. Transgenic, yes or no, it's a little testy because each transgenic is different from another. One is a cow, one is an apple. They're not all good, they're not all bad. There has been transgenics that have been a disaster. No one wanted them, like the Randapredi maize, and there have been transgenics that have been used by farmers because it has worked for them. The transgenics is obsolete. Transgenics have been sold for 20 years, and the multinational companies are not researching on transgenic. Now we have technology, which is going to be more controversial, which is the Esion Génica. We are considering more and more. Don't have time to explain it. Why there is no more transgenic. There's an open chromosome that is not injected with anything that is external. So that is a discussion that is taking place now, and that which relates to the editing genetics. It's not included anymore. They already covered a part of the world where they were useful, but it was not being developed any longer. The next question is, how can an instrument that promotes FAO that are voluntary, like the treatment, are mandatory? You cannot. You cannot, because governments that are independent and recognized by United Nations are sovereign. You cannot tell another government what to do. So in fact, when we carry out inter-government organizations is different scales. First, there's a treaty where each country that is part of a treaty, the only thing that occurs from the legal standpoint is that the country is committed to adjust its internal legislation and align it to what the treaty says. They cannot be mandated. The highest level of inter-government organization is when you have a convention where the country is in agreement with changing its internal legislation so it's aligned with this convention and accepts. And if they don't, they should be sanctioned. There is no other mandate or obligation that you can implement, neither public or private. There was another question which has to do with ecological seeds. If there is no seed produced of one type, is that there isn't enough demand. That's pretty clear. When you speak about ecological seeds, I imagine you're talking about organic or bio. There's a great deal of names. Yes, there's a great things been done. The European Union launched in 2018 an organic seed where it says that the varieties that are utilized for organic seeds must be heterogenic. No, of course, the private companies started to produce heterogenic seeds because there's a market for it. And yes, a great deal has been achieved. Let's recall that seeds need to be certified only when there's a problem. If there is no problem that cannot be solved, you don't need someone from outside to inspect my seed production to certify that it is what I said it is. When there's trust in the markets, you don't need to certify it. The market size, the largest one of horticulture is Europe, and they don't certify anymore because they don't have a problem. In Uruguay, my birth country, wheat is certified only 10%. In the same country with the same rules, rice is certified because there is a problem, because the red rice is rejected. So when there is a problem, you have to bring an inspector. When there's no problem, you don't need one. I have so much more to say, but we don't have time. So I would like to see you again in another meeting. It has been a pleasure, and to see old friends and well-known people in this event. Anna, and I will say no more. Thank you, Wilson, for your very good comments. We will soon have moments to share with these friends and other speakers. As you can see, this seminar has come at the right time. FAO is about to begin its implementation and recommendations that has come about on the ecological development of seeds, and a roundtable on a sustainable seed development. In this seminar, we have gone deeply into a critical aspect in the need to have access and use of material for sowing on behalf of farmers, which is part of a sustainable development and ensure food security and subsistence and livelihood in the agricultural communities. Part of the solutions of high technology and seeds in the treatment of the seeds themselves is a factor that is very important to have good crops. We know there are challenges and opportunities in seed production, and also there's a important of relevance of technical support, coordination amongst players, which sometimes weakens companies or countries to adapt and see the production line of seeds. We want to conserve seeds that are ancestral in nature in cultural and traditional manner to allow for biodiversity in production. This webinar has heard different technical profiles, particularly the support of FAO in ancestral seed production, the formulation and challenges of national production in Costa Rica, and its impact and the different experiences and projects of seed production as Nicaragua and Venezuela. We have heard different focuses, practices, and lessons learned in the promotion and coordinated focus of the value chain of seed production. FAO continues to be convinced of supporting seed framework and effective systems that will allow for the access of producers to these seeds and production. We will continue working to reduce the gap in between the modern technology and traditional manners of production. And we also see the importance of conservation of the phytogenetic information in biodiversity. We will strengthen the collaboration between the different stakeholders, the public-private institutions, research centers, companies, NGOs, and seed banks to include sustainable, inclusive environments. I would like to sincerely thank all the speakers for your ideas, suggestions, and experiences, the participants for your active involvement in the chat. We are concluding this event, but we'd like to invite you to our network and other activities and launch that we will have at the local level in countries such as Chile, Peru, Nicaragua, Venezuela, and as of the activities carried out by the project More Cotton. We will socialize the link in different areas so you can have access to these presentations. And once again, we would like to thank our guests for their time, the analysis, the presentations. And thank you to more than 700 participants in this event. And we would like to thank all of those that have participated in the organization of this event for your commitment and your collective involvement. Thank you. Have a nice afternoon.